Welcome to Conversations with Zaki Baruti, with your host, Zaki Baruti. And like always, I want to give a shout out to my biological family, what's going on, to the Universal African Peoples Organization family, what's happening, and to the New Life Evangelistic Center family, what's going on. On that note, we're going to have another great show. Also, I want to acknowledge our cameraman, Bob. Mm-hmm. On that note, in studio with me is a person that many of you know here in the St. Louis metropolitan area, as well as throughout the nation. And he's a colleague of mine that go way back into the 80s. And it's none other than Brother Malik Ahmed, president and founder of Better Family Life. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Zaki. It's always good to be with you.
Absolutely. Malik, I want this to be the first of several shows where I would have you as my guest to deal with the need for international travel and to understand why one need to go and see the world beyond the United States. And so to that end, I'm publicly asking you to be my guest henceforth on those issues.
Well, I'm so happy to be your guest because I rarely get a chance to talk about international travels and specifically the travels that I have done around the world and what it did for me. When you travel around the world, it opens your mind up in such a way that nothing compares to what happens to the expansion of your mind and what you feel that you can contribute. I've often said that one trip that can last for a week to 2 weeks is equivalent to reading 100 books.
I know that's right.
Yeah,
I know that's right.
Exactly. It's just every second of the day, something is coming before your consciousness that you didn't know or that you've never experienced before. But when you experience it, it just opens up a whole nother vista of your mind consciousness.
You know, on that note, I want to digress, which I normally do before I get into the subject. For people who may not know who Malik Ahmed is, share with our audience Malik.
Malik is a product of Harlem, New York, from a family of 12 that grew up in a housing project in New York called the Abraham Lincoln Housing Project.
The Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. So it's very fortuitous of where I would be in life, coming out of that housing project. But what was so wonderful about living in the Abraham Lincoln Housing Projects, it's in Central Harlem, and it was at the heart and the soul of everything that was taking place in Harlem. 135th Street, on Lenox Avenue, you have the Schomburg Library. On 125th Street, 10 blocks down the road, you have the Apollo and all of everything that the 125th Street has always conjured up in everybody's mind all over the world. We lived in the midst of 4 different economic groups, African-American economic groups, one on top of the other. And so we saw competing classes of African-Americans fighting for space, of saying who they are and that whole bit. At the same time, right in the area that I lived in was the epicenter of the Black movement. So the Schomburg, of course, attracted people.
And we're talking about what period of time? So people
in the 1950s and early 1960s.
Right, okay.
So in the 1950s, you had a lot of activists of the Garvey movement still in Harlem. That was still the international base of the Garvey movement. You had the Nation of Islam, of course, Malcolm X, and then after Malcolm, Minister Farrakhan. You had down the street Abyssinian Baptist Church with Reverend Adam Clayton Powell, who was one of the most dynamic, not only ministers, but also one of the most dynamic politicians and elected officials. And then you had the research people like John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben. You had entertainers. Wilt Chamberlain had his restaurant, bar not close by. Count Basie's had a place. Roy Campanella, the great baseball player. Jackie Robinson. So we were faced with all of these people. So you see Malcolm on the corner, you see Farrakhan, you see Adam Clayton Powell, you see Duke Ellington. Everybody and anybody that was a part of the Black movement was all operating in that space. So I had the privilege of growing up with a wealth of just Black energy. In addition to that, around the late 1950s, the African countries start getting their independence. So ambassadors and diplomats from Africa who could not find living spaces in other parts of Manhattan at the time moved up to Harlem. So we had a wealth of just Black excellence on every level.
Similar to the Black Renaissance of the 20s, I guess you can say that. So to that end, how did you end up getting to St. Louis and founding Better Family Life? I know we're here to talk about international, but I still want to set, because I'm having you here some more times. Okay?
Absolutely. Well, the Better Family Life was...
Well, before you do that, we'll need to take a quick break, and then we'll come back.
Okay. It's the gifts of caring people like you that help keep the Zaki Baruti Show on the air, dealing with hard issues that we must begin to recognize in our community, issues that are frequently ignored by much of the existing media. And St. Louis and the St. Louis area is a community that's famous for its Jim Crow policies of keeping the people down by elevating the rich and the powerful. I want to encourage you to get a copy of the book Through the Fire as you share your gift of $10 or more to help keep Zaki's program on the air and directly help the hurting and the homeless. This book goes into great detail about how the bigotry and the self-centeredness of the rich and powerful was implemented through the politicians to drive the homeless out of the area by shutting down the Work a New Life Evangelistic Center. But the work isn't shut down. It's moving forth in many other different locations. It's moved out on the streets among the people, and it's working to get back into 1411 Locust, all of which is made possible through the prayers and gifts of caring individuals like you. And that's why your gift is so very important at this time. And as you share that gift with New Life Evangelistic Center of $10 or more at P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri 63166, be sure you request your copy of Through the Fire. Yes, God is moving in a mighty way. New Life Evangelistic Center has not given up in spite of all the persecution. It's given it to God, and we're seeing Him now do exceedingly abundantly beyond what we can even ask or think. I ask you to continue to pray for us at the New Life Evangelistic Center as we're working to continue to bring you community programming like the Zaki Baruti Show and are out on the streets among the homeless, working among the homeless, distributing bus tickets every week and emergency supplies for them, opening up safe houses for the homeless women and children, expanding training programs for the homeless. All of it is possible because of each one of you that is sharing that much-needed gift now with New Life Evangelistic Center. So when you send your gift of $10 or more, please request a copy of Through the Fire. It's P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166.
How important are St. Louis Metro passes to the needy? To provide stability and permanent change to the homeless, they need jobs. But how do they get transportation to look for work when they have no money? And when they find a job, how will they get there? Become a part of NLEC's Metro Pass program and help bring enduring change to a life.
I have doctor's appointments that I have to attend, going to seek jobs and putting in applications. I really would like you to understand the importance and the need for this ministry, and anything that you can do to keep this ministry going. Please know that it is an extension of God's love.
Welcome back to Conversations with Zaki Baruti with my host, Malik Ahmed, with president and founder of Better Family Life. And you was just on the other side getting ready to share, how did you end up here in St. Louis, having been in that great renaissance of New York, being the 12th child, I'm the 10th child. I mean, not the 10th, I'm the beginning of the team. Where did you fall within 12?
I was the 8th. Of the 12.
Were y'all a close-knit family?
We were very close-knit.
Great. Was the father and mother at home?
Father and mother was at home.
Be.
Yes. And in fact, my mother lived to be almost 97 years old.
Is that right?
So we just lost her about 2 years ago, and she lived a great life.
Right.
But you asked the question of the founding of Better Family Life. It actually started in New York City by members of my family. We had been involved in community organization since the late 50s. Mm-hmm. And by 1972, we started talking about we needed a family organization. And we needed a family organization that would engage in enterprise. And so we organized a group of people and we went into the concessionary business. So we were the concessionary team that went out with major artists, and went all over this country with them, selling their various products. Well, I went into the Peace Corps in 1977 and came back with a whole different perspective on what I thought we should be doing in terms of development. There were some members of my family that did not want to go back into community organization because they had the point of view, been there, done that. And I was saying, no. Community organization is important, especially if we connect it to economics and connect it to international connectivity. And they were kind of okay, but they were lukewarm on the idea. As fortune would have me, Deborah moved to New York in 1979, a year before I came back to the United States.
And Deborah,
Deborah is my wife.
It's your wife.
Of 38 years now.
38 years. But before we get to Deborah, I mean, you raised a point that I had to ask going back, okay? Before you met Deborah, you had shared that you had went to the Peace Corps.
Yes.
Now, what motivated you to go to the Peace Corps, and did you get any international experience out of the Peace Corps? All right.
What motivated me to go to the Peace Corps, I'd always wanted to go to Africa ever since a child. As I said, the African diplomats that were coming into the Harlem community, many times their children and us went to the same public school. So that was the first time of really hearing the day-to-day experience of an African child. And beside my oldest brother, who was the one that really was the patriarch of our family, his name is Omar Ahmed. He was very close with Malcolm. He was in Morocco in 1958.
Okay.
And so he came back, Omar Ahmed. That's how the Ahmed part came and converted.
A young man named Omar. Out of the Abraham Lincoln projects had been to Morocco.
He goes into the Air Force. He goes into the Air Force. And about 1955 or so. And then he is stationed in Morocco.
Right.
And he comes back with this whole different point of view. We were a good law-abiding Christian family, and he comes with this whole different perspective on God and consciousness and your blackness and all of this kind of stuff. And this is at 1958.
Right.
And so, but it coincides with what's taking place on the African continent and what's taking place with the liberation movement all over the continent. So as these African diplomats come into Harlem, their children are going to the public schools in Harlem. And so many of them we befriended, and they start telling us about their country. So at 10 and 11 and 12 years old, all of these ideas are being, pushed into my head about Africa.
Right.
One time, as early as 1968, the Urban League had a school academy program, and in that program, they were going into the high schools, and one trip was to go to Africa, to take 50 kids to Africa. My biology teacher was encouraging me to go and get my needles and all that kind of stuff, and I procrastinated, and I didn't make the trip. And I read in the paper that Urban League takes 50 Harlem youth to Africa. I cried. That was my first time crying. And then I had another opportunity to go in 1972 to Kenya and Tanzania. And it was a girlfriend of mine's and her friends. And so they said, no, we want to make it an all-girls trip. So I blew again. And this same particular girlfriend of mine in 1976 decided that we went through college together. She decided that she wanted to go and join the Peace Corps.
Right.
And, after she got there, a few love letters and all of that stuff. We had already gone, throughout our college days, had gone to several of the Caribbean islands, Haiti, Jamaica, Nassau. So
you had already been traveling a little bit prior to going to Africa.
Prior to going to Africa, I had traveled some. Okay. But so in 1977, I said, sure, I'll join. And as it would turn out, I got involved in an urban development project in the capital city of Bamako, Mali, and worked for the city of Bamako in Mali and built sanitation.
And how long was that?
For 3 years.
For 3 years, and you were in
Mali. And
that was from what year to what year?
1977 to 1980.
Okay.
And in that time...
And as a young man. You were approximately...
I was about 20... I went in at 26.
Okay.
And did from 26 to 29 in West Africa. And
so that was your first experience in Africa.
Yes.
On that note, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll bring Deborah into the picture. All right. On that note, a quick break.
Hello, I'm Larry Rice, Director of New Life Evangelistic Center and NLEC TV, and I come to you now and I ask you just to please pray and consider becoming a partner with us here so that we can continue to keep conversations with Zaki Baruti on the air. It's only because of the faithful support of individuals like you that we can provide this service along with a multitude of services to the poor, the fatherless, the widowed, the hurting, and the homeless. Your prayers, your gifts right now are absolutely essential as we confront gentrification in our community of rich and powerful people that want the poor and homeless out of sight and out of mind. We're trying to get 1411 open back up again. We can do that if you will help us. We can provide shelter once again. We're doing it in many other locations, but we need your help now to keep conversations with Zaki on the air and to help those that are hurting in need. And it's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166. Or you can discover us online by going to nlecstl.org. Thank you for praying, caring, and sharing at this critical hour.
If you can't receive NLEC TV on channel 24.2 on your TV, you can watch us on your home computer or laptop, anywhere in the world. Simply type in NLEC TV, then select NLEC TV support and click on the small NLEC TV on the right of the menu bar. Click on the play indicator to start the live programming, the same programming as 24.2. You can then enlarge the picture and enjoy your favorite programs like the NLEC Worship with Larry Rice, The Bernie Hayes Show, Experience the Benefits of Change with Pastor Burris, conversations with Zaki Baruti, news and views, and so much more.
Can you hear the music of creation?
NLEC TV is also available on all mobile devices such as smartphones and iPads. By getting the NLEC TV app, you can enjoy NLEC TV anywhere you go.
Welcome back to Conversations with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is Brother Malik Ahmed, President and founder of Better Family Life and World Traveler. And off air, we were just discussing the fact that this half an hour is just going by so super fast. Yeah. And as I had mentioned at the top of the hour, I would like to have this as a series of shows. Sure. And maybe the very first two is on your early experiences. Sure. And because originally I had asked Malik to be here to talk about his experience in Cuba, and I can't wait to hear about that.
Boy, I would love to tell you about
it. And you have to make sure that you stay tuned to the program so that you can hear the experiences of Malik through, how many countries have you been to?
35.
35 countries, and we'll be getting into why you should travel and what have you. But at this point, we're kind of like going over his life, his early experiences of travel, and in his life, as we talk about the development of Better Family Life, came a beautiful young lady, and her name, and Cheryl.
Deborah from University City, Missouri.
University City, Missouri.
Yes, exactly.
And we're talking about how you end up here.
She moved from Chicago to New York in 1978. So while I was in Africa, she was in New York. In 1980, by chance, at a Harlem Week celebration, we bumped into each other. I had just come home, Zaki. I don't think I was home for more than a month. And I saw her at the famous Leviticus nightclub. She was there as a model for Harlem Week. I was there as one of the guests. And Leviticus is known by some of the young people as the place that this television series Empire takes place, in a club called Leviticus in New York. But back in the 1980s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, this club was like really famous. Well, anyway, we met, and we start talking, and she has studied the dances and the cultures of Senegal, Mali, and Guinea.
Wow.
And so she was very familiar with the cultural and the dance forms and the rhythms of those countries. And I was like, whoa, I just got back. And so from there, it was love at first sight. We lived together in New York for 2 years, from 1980 to 1982. We married in 1981 in University City, right across the street from where your house is. That's where we got married. And in that, we start talking about what it is that we want to do for our community. And Better Family Life Part 2 was born, not with the concessionary aspect, but with community organization, culture, and activism, with an Afrocentric beat in everything that we were doing. So that was the formation of Better Family Life here in St. Louis. Officially, we formed in February of 1983. So now we are celebrating our 36th anniversary.
Right. Congratulations. Congratulations on that. I always winding down. What I want to go back to in terms of, and we don't get back into the depth of Better Family Life, because like I say, I'm saying I would like for you to be a couple of times more.
Explain it all to your audience.
Originally, though, we were here to talk about international travel. Yes. First and foremost, what would be some of the basic things that you would advocate people doing in preparation for international travel. But before we do that, we got to take a break, and we only have a couple minutes left after we get back.
Make it fast.
All right.
An epidemic of homelessness is sweeping throughout the United States of America. In city after city, people are ending up on the streets. Now, instead of feeling overwhelmed, as believers, we can do three things. We can give, we can volunteer, and we can pray. We can pray for the homeless refugees that we're finding in one city after another, all over the United States. So many people ending up out on the streets, and the hearts of so many are growing cold at this particular time and indifferent to the need. Jesus said, as oft as you've done it to the least of these, he said, even so you've done it unto me. When's the last time you've prayed for the homeless refugees in the United States of America, appearing in city after city, not only in major cities, but even smaller cities? So many people ending up out on the streets, even in resort areas, places you never think you'd find homeless people. They're there. Jesus said, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but he, the Son of Man, had nowhere to lay his head. Please pray for the refugees. Please pray for the homeless people in America. And pray for those that are on the front lines, the first responders, reaching out through Jesus Christ among the homeless and hurting, whether it's in Springfield or St. Louis. Your prayers and gifts to the New Life Evangelistic Center makes a big difference. This New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, is 63166.
Thanks to New Life Evangelistic Center, thousands of mothers with children around the world can stay together. They can pursue their educations, and they grow in grace and in the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thank you to all of our Club 24 members who make this miracle happen.
Welcome back to Conversations with Zaki Baruti. With me is Brother Malik Ahmed. We got to speed through the last minute or two, and you're going to answer my question on the other side.
I think the basic idea is first, forget the fact that you are American and that you are not in America. Because a lot of times Americans try to transport America to wherever they go. That's the first thing you have to get out of trying to do. The second thing is to be able to appreciate the environment, that it's a new experience. So you got to wipe your slate clean and just try to absorb the environment, whether that environment is good, bad, or indifferent. Be able to appreciate who you are and the environment that you're in, and that you're different. The environment is different from the orientation that you know. And so the learning process is to learn how other people live. It's to be able to have an appreciation for other people's living experience and other people's views about that living experience.
And on that note, to be able to travel, there's an important document people have to get.
Oh, they got to get a passport. They got to get a passport. And make sure that your health is good. Before traveling, get a checkup and all the rest of that stuff. Because one of the greatest drags that can happen when you travel abroad is for you to get sick. And the whole experience is blown if you're sick in bed. So make sure that you're healthy. If you have high blood pressure, you should make sure that you have your medication, your blood pressure is down. Whatever physical challenges you have, make sure all of those things are out of the way. And then the other thing that I would say, travel with a companion or a group, because that's the best part of being able to share the experience with somebody. Traveling alone, it ain't cool because you don't have anybody to talk to. But travel itself, as I said, it's worth 100 books in 1 week of just being abroad.
And on that note, Malik, again, it has went so fast, but again, I'm committing that you will be back. We will talk about something, the experience in Mali, the experience in Cuba. So I'm looking forward to it, and I know the audience is looking forward to it. You keep up the great work that you're doing, and may God continue blessing you.
And may God continue to bless you, Zaki. You are a great man, and you are a great help to this entire community.
Okay, thank you, Brother Malik. On that note, you've been listening to Conversations with Zaki Baruti. God bless each and every one of you. Get involved.